What's going on, everyone? Welcome to ToneCast 100. We made it, Marco. We finally made it to 100 episodes. How does it feel?
It feels good. The other day you said it and I was like, oh wow, yeah, this is going to be a big momentous occasion. And those of you that have been along the whole journey will know just kind of the progression of it all. So thank you all for tuning in. This is a fun time. It's
been a bit of a journey. I'll share a little bit of the ToneCast history, kind of a big 100 celebration. We're going to talk about a couple interesting gear topics coming up. This is also the first simulcast that we're going to be doing here. So if you want to see what we look like, if you've been on our Podbean or iTunes or whatever feed that the podcast shows up on, we're going to be on our YouTube channel as well with this, kind of doing a simulcast. So this is one of our first simulcasts. We'll do multiple ones of these in the future as well. We may not do every single episode. I haven't really decided yet because we're going to have interviews and honestly, we don't really want to spend a lot of time on the technical side of things. So we want to be able to just make sure we can get the content out for you guys and really talk about gear in a different format, a little bit more long-term format. So those that are watching this is just a lot of talking. So if you want guitar playing and all the other stuff, you can go to the rest of our channel, but we'll have more content. But I just want to share really, before we dive into some of the topics, I just kind of want to share about the ToneCast history. I know that we started in 2017, I believe, so it's taken us 4 or 5 years to get to 100 episodes, which looking back, I'm like, man, that's not very many episodes for that many years, but we've gone through a ton of transition, not only in people, but in products. That was the same year that we released our guitar line again, and now we're all coming full circle. We're kind of starting this transition away from guitars, at least as a major focus of the business, and moving into just supplying people to kind of focusing on the pickup side of the business as a whole. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of development. I think that we probably, every episode we kind of talk about this one thing, Marco, and I think we can go ahead and talk about that now before we jump into the thick of what's going on.
The meat and potatoes.
Yes.
So those of you that follow us and that are just good people and like to hang out with us digitally know about our pickup chooser, and we're always talking about our pickup chooser, and so you can go on our website and you'll see the prompt there. It'll kind of lead you right to it, and feel free to kind of tell us about your rig and tell us kind of what you're going for, maybe even the symptoms that you notice in your existing guitar that you feel like, it could be this, it could be that. And then, there's always a little spot to, drop a picture and you can show off the little collection or whatever. But then we'll just kind of give you our honest opinion as to what, we could do for you, and maybe even just some things that you could consider, and even just answering some questions that you might have. That's, it's just such a good resource, I think. And there's a lot of information out there, and, it's just another facet where we can kind of give back a little bit. So feel free to fill that out, and we'll be in touch.
Definitely. We'll put that in the episode notes, and as well as the simulcast video notes. We'll put the link to the chooser below. And you mentioned, one thing you mentioned is people attaching photos. We love it when you attach a photo. Some people, I think, maybe go overboard with that. They're like, here is my cables that I use, here's my pedal board, here's my picture of my dog next to my amp. But we love all of it. We love seeing the different guitars that you're working with. It takes us a while. I probably should put this disclaimer out there. It just takes a while to give proper response to all that. So I appreciate for those who have sent in the choosers. It does take us longer than the same day that you email. It may take up to a week for us to get back to you, just due to the volume of the choosers, due to the amount of things that we have going on at the shop at any given time. So be patient with us as we work that out. We really want to make sure we take the full time to give you a proper answer. So that's kind of why it does take a while. A lot of times we'll jump on the phone with you. We will send you a long email. We'll go through an email chain that can be 20 emails long. Mm-hmm. So it is a very involved process, but it's something that we chose to do, and we feel like represents our brand really well in terms of just being helpful and supportive of this big decision of performing surgery on your guitar. Our products are not easy to put in and to check out, so we appreciate those who are willing and to take the risk into the deep waters of soldering and pulling all your strings off and ripping the guts out of your guitar. So that's that's kind of what happens with our product. But I want to talk about a little bit what's been going on in the shop the last couple of weeks. I know at the beginning of the year we were like thinking, yeah, we're going to do a weekly show, and here we are, like, you know, maybe we've done 3 or 4 shows maximum this year. So Marco, kind of let the listeners know kind of what we've been working on, some of the cool projects that we've been doing. Also, maybe we could talk about the video that we just published, comparing the different pickups that we have in guitars.
Yeah, well, I think the year has definitely been flying by, you know, and yeah, we're like, oh man, it's almost the end of March. And so a lot of the stuff in the shop has been very much in the realm of like custom shop stuff, and really kind of working with a lot of interesting materials as far as like different kind of toppers and stuff that you can kind of put on the pickup, you know, because sometimes people want to match like a wood top or something like that. And, you know, that's all something that we can build the pickups kind of the classic look how you like it, but you know, we also like to have fun with a lot of the things that we can do, and we got a lot of fun machines in the shop, and we like to put them to the test. So, you know, it's a lot of stuff like that. Also a lot of like heavy bobbin focus and really trying to streamline the bobbin building process. I know that there's probably bigger outfits that have huge machines and stuff like that, and we're trying to really claw up to that point, but you know, for the most part it's all still, you know, kind of the caveman way of building bobbins. So
it's handcrafted.
You
don't have to say caveman, we're more sophisticated than that. But yeah, that's been a big slow process of improvement. We're in the process of buying like a customized eyelet press right now. Very exciting. I mean, for those watching and listening, they're like, ooh, that's very cool, an eyelet press. You have no idea how excited we are about this eyelet press. After pressing thousands of eyelets in the course of a week or two, we're looking forward to something that will speed up that process for us.
Yeah.
And it's literally like we are just about as excited as New Gear Day about this eyelet press, but it's not going to be here for a little while, but it's coming.
Yeah, so it's like a Christmas of sorts. But maybe it'll be so cool that there will probably even be like a little short like teaser video or something, like, you know, old school and then new school or something. But, so definitely stay tuned. I mean, there's always a lot of fun stuff going on around here.
For sure, and everyone's going to be like, man, you guys got to get outside and get some fresh air because you're just excited about this eyelet press. But that's just where we're at. Anytime we improve efficiency in the shop, it keeps everyone free to build more pickups or to do different jobs. And we're cutting the labor parts in probably like, you know, we're gonna be like 10 times more efficient, which is gonna be amazing for getting things out faster, for all of these processes. So technology and machinery has been very helpful for us just to kind of move things forward. Well, I'm ready to get into these topics. I've got 2 topics to talk about today. These are kind of the latest and greatest industry. I don't want to say greatest because they're not necessarily great.
Some of these are pretty
kind of great. But these are new things that are coming or that are exist in the industry right now. Some hard things and some new things, new releases. So we're going to talk about a couple different things. We're going to start off with the old tube shortage conversation. It's been a bit of a tube crisis, with obviously many of the factories being in Russia, and the Russia and Ukraine conflict kind of creating supply chain shortages. Factories were not exporting for a while. I believe as of this recording, things are starting to move out of the country again, and people are getting tubes, but there was a bit of a panic and a supply chain and I would even say scalping, right? Tube scalping. It's like, oh, I gotta buy these tubes up and sell. So I had a conversation with a guitar builder, amp builder. Yes, why am I saying guitar builder? Because that's their world. I had a conversation with a amp builder who definitely was a little upset about the videos that were being made about the tube shortage, because there was probably 4 or 5 like bigger influencers on YouTube saying, oh no, the tubes are gone, and kind of like the sensational YouTube thumbnails and subjects where they're freaking out. And over the course of a weekend of some of these videos being released, the tubes were almost gone. So people saw the videos and they went and bought them all, and amp builders were like, what do I do? Do I need to buy them all? Do I need to
wait? Like what?
Yeah. So,
oh man.
So I don't know how much you followed kind of that whole tube thing. I remember seeing like a regular, preamp tube that was like not very much, and it was like 5 times as much on eBay or Reverb.
Mm-hmm.
Did you kind of follow some of that like initially?
And not so much at first, and it's interesting that you kind of, even just talking about it now, I'm like realizing the extent of kind of the magnitude of this thing. And yeah, I guess tubes were like the new toilet paper for a little bit there. And,
They were.
yeah, that's just wild. And I'm glad that, it's kind of I know that we were trying to send some sets even to like Ukraine, I think, and they ended up getting sent back because there's a lot of stuff like that happening. And yeah, you don't think about that, about guitar tubes, and you're like, oh wait, where are all these tubes coming from? So
Yeah, we did have even one customer in Russia, and this is kind of sad and frustrating, I think, in the sense of like, and obviously we don't want this to be a political show, and I don't think this is a necessarily political topic, but this is real life. We had a customer in Russia who wanted a set. We actually got to the post office and put it in the mail, and they said, yeah, you got a little bit of a window to get it there USPS, but it got shut off, and I believe that the set will be coming back to us. They can't get it into the country, and the customer's MasterCard was being shut down, so he couldn't get a refund. He basically is just wondering if he's out the money and out the pickups, and all these companies are kind of economically sanctioning Russia, and there's well-meaning people in the country that are being affected by it. And I think that to me is kind of like, even just seeing stuff on the news, but then kind of having a real customer that was just like, man, I just want my set of pickups, but my MasterCard is going to be frozen as of 2:00 today or whatever. It was like really kind of sad email to go back and forth. And so it kind of just, yeah, man, just a weird situation with that. That whole thing has kind of affected the tubes as well, but even we've looked at some of the end sources for some nickel and cobalt for the Alnico magnets is mined in Russia. And so is that going to affect us way down the line? It's got to get mined and processed and then sent for combining it all into the Alnico, the different Alnico formulas. But is that going to affect us? As of now, it hasn't, but I could see that being a trickle down as things escalate over there. So just dealing with stuff that's a little bit more out of your control than normal. Like supply chains have been kind of smooth, and then the Rona hits, and then there's conflicts, and we rely on a lot of different countries to kind of make things work. And even if it's just like, well, the raw materials come from here, but that's obviously affected in trying to get the end product to our doorstep, and then obviously we build it into the pickup. So that's been a little crazy. I don't know, like we just haven't been affected right away, but obviously the supply chain stuff has really affected us. We're waiting on different things that take a lot longer than normal, and this conflict has certainly put a pinch on a lot of people's livelihoods and jobs, and I think that's hard when there's more things get shut off, and it actually affects more people than just trying to put pressure on the country to stop war, which we want that, we support that, but I think that it's like, man, it really does affect a lot of other people. So again, don't want to get too far in the weeds there. Just kind of sharing a real example of how things like this trickle down and affect other people, and we're certainly not complaining about our situation and not having product. I mean, at the end of the day, if we can't get product, we can't have a business. But we're not dealing with the same kind of stuff that the people of Ukraine are dealing with, and all that. So definitely our hearts go out to them, and just hoping for peace. I think that most all of us are, and man, hopefully that stuff gets resolved, and yeah, just kind of gets on a little bit better path for sure.
Yeah, and return into some kind of civil normalcy and stuff like that, and maybe stuff like the tube shortages. And I mean, I think we need to make like a Alnico is running out forever video now. Yeah, by the way, because we'll get so many views. But
that's right.
And then start the whole supply chain and it's just let's just try and share everybody, I guess. I mean, hopefully there's some builders that, I mean, I think if you're planning on like releasing something new and you're like, all right, I need 50 of these, 100 of these, and you're like, oh, I guess I'm not releasing any new amps this year. And like kind of the first quarter of the year, you would think that you would kind of start off strong to really push yourself through the rest of the year. So it's like you're saying, even with, you know, this whole conflict and how it kind of ripples and affects a lot of other things, like even this small, tiny, like ripple off of the big conflict, it, you know, it touches a lot of people. And it's interesting that even the stuff over there and then, you know, it kind of ended up reaching us somehow, even just like one of our customers. And it's weird to think that our stuff even gets as far out into the world as it does, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird situation. I kind of want to circle back to the influencer thing and kind of as people make these like sensational videos, and I'm not knocking specifically anyone, but people will make these videos, and this is kind of the dark side of maybe the influencer thing. We had a show kind of on endorsements and influencers a ways back, and kind of talked about how it can actually go wrong, or it can have a negative effect on certain parts of the industry. And this is definitely one of those where those videos contributed to a tube shortage that was probably already going to happen, or at least be really severely hampered as far as like the number of tubes that were available. But it sort of like accelerated that into panic mode. You know, like you mentioned the toilet paper, that's a perfect example. It's like, well, I just need to make sure I have toilet paper. And people were buying way more than they needed for an entire year, when they probably could just, you know, just keep it for like, you know, a month supply or something like that. So I get concerned about that negative part of that as well, because it does, like you said, the trickle down thing, it does affect other people trying to release amps or trying to fill orders, and all of a sudden their costs go up, you know, 30% because there's this tube shortage and they can't buy the tubes they amps to keep it at a certain price point, and all of a sudden they're losing money, and the panic effect kind of like trickles down and costs them more to sell an amp, you know. And I think that's where I just I can certainly understand the frustration and maybe the negative part of someone saying something, and then how it can really affect a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, we all want to be, and especially some of the you know, the channels that are more, because there's always kind of the focus, and some of them definitely are, or they'll have episodes or shows where they're more like news centric, and like, here's the new stuff, here's the new releases. I mean, you want to be kind of on the cutting edge and kind of know what's going on and be tapped into the gear community and be able to inform your audience, you know. So I think it is like people trying to be good intentions, you know, or have good intentions and just inform their audience. But yeah, it's just wild how it can totally ripple and cause all this, the butterfly effect or something, like, you know.
For sure.
But you know, we're just, hopefully everybody got the tubes that they needed, and hopefully we'll be able to get some more, and you know, share if you got some extra.
That's right.
Give some to your neighbor or something. Donate
the tubes to your buddy who. Well, and I think all the digital amp guys are like, I don't have to worry about a tube shortage, but then they're worried about a chip shortage. So it's all relative, you know, for the modelers.
It's just a shortage's time, I think.
Yeah, it really is.
And we've had to get all very creative and adaptable to the circumstances.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you kind of get steamrolled a little bit.
For sure, and you have to. I mean, it's tricky right now because you got to spend money ahead of time and predict what's coming. But everything costs so much more, so you're outlaying a lot more cash to get parts to come in, and then all of a sudden you're like, man, I wish I wouldn't have bought like 300 of these. I don't really need them right now. So that's been a tricky game, an ever-evolving game for us, for sure. Well, I want to jump into the second half of kind of our show here, talking about Gibson's new guitar, the Theodore. What do you think? First reactions, Marco, kind of seeing this kind of popped out in the last week or so. Ted McCarty designed, like they found some secret drawings kind of thing. I kind of glanced over like the sort of the history of it from the 50s, and so this guitar is out, and I'm sure all of you have seen this guitar. We'll put a shot of it up on the screen for those watching on YouTube. What do you think of this guitar?
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of cute. It's a cute little thing. it's got a cute $5,000 price tag, but I think they only made like, they're only making like 100 or 200 or 200
so
of each
it's
color.
a limited release kind of thing. Gotcha.
They've got the 3 colors. I'm kind of partial to the wine red one, but it kind of almost looks
we're looking
a little,
at it here. It's like,
almost looks a little like clowny to me for some reason. But I do like the little like center stripe. I think it's walnut maybe, or mahogany. I'm not sure. It kind of reminds me of those like Spotlight Special Les Pauls that have the center.
Oh, yeah, that's
they have
right.
like a center stripe of maple up to the top. But the little like ears, they kind of remind me of like a little like Jigglypuff Kirby character. But then it also reminds me of those like Rickenbackers, those early ones that kind of look like tulips too.
Yeah.
And I do remember seeing the drawing that Ted McCarty did, and it did have a little bit different of a headstock, a little bit more like Prince's guitar, maybe like I don't know. But I think the Explorer headstock is an interesting choice on it. I think it's cool. I'd have to strum it.
Yeah, you have to play it.
I don't know if I'm in the market per se for something of this caliber.
If you want dual P90s, you probably want a special or a junior or something like that, right? I mean, just looks wise, it's a little bit hard to overcome.
Yeah, and I think I think there's a channel that I watch, and he kind of like goes up inside these guitars, and I think they're just kind of like regular old like P90s, and it looks like they were even the same one. They were like the same resistances. So I don't know. I'm not trying to like knock them or anything, but it could be a little more blingy, maybe. I don't know, but it's got its own look, and I think the pickguard was different on Ted McCarty's drawing too.
Okay.
I kind of like that little triangle wedge
like oblong, kind of thing. Yeah, wedge. It looks like a doorstop, kind of like you would hold your door open. Yeah, I think for me it's definitely unique, right? There's definitely a lot of interesting things with it. I'm probably with you in terms of I don't know that I don't have gear gas when I see it. I'm not really interested in owning one necessarily. And I do like, shocker, I do have a little bit of sympathy, like about like a tiny amount of sympathy for Gibson in this, and that's because they can't really do anything new. And now this is not new, right? This was original drawings from a long time ago. And who knows, maybe if this was released back then, it would have been just as popular as the Les Paul because certain people might have played it, right? So we can't like think to ourselves like, oh, this would never have taken off if it was released, because there's certain guitars that really did. And so, maybe it'll be like the Jazzmaster or something where it was pretty cool when it came out, and then there was a long stretch where it wasn't cool, and then it's cool again. So I don't know if it would be like that maybe, but I do have sympathy for them in the sense of they really can't design anything new without being destroyed on the internet. Like, oh, this is something different, so we hate it, because they have such an iconic lineup of shapes, the 335 and the SG and the Les Paul, and so anytime something comes out that's not one of those, everyone destroys them. Everyone gets all up in arms, and it's it's kind of fun to pick on the big guy, right? It's like the big bully Gibson or whatever. But I just think that they're kind of in a no-win situation, developing such an iconic line of guitars and shapes, and like people can't really see a Gibson that doesn't look like one of their popular designs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it just in our minds we want them to be innovative, but then I think at the core we don't. We're kind of like, yeah, don't innovate. But then they try, and everyone's like, oh, that's terrible, and
Yeah, that is kind of the thing, and I think, or not to cut you off there, but if you can finish your thought.
No, you're good. You're good.
But like when the new like CEO came in, and like they kind of started, it looks like they were like going back to like, well, obviously everyone is after these like iconic shapes and feature, and like old style, like how they were built in the 60s or whatever, and they kind of started moving back into that way. But yeah, it is kind of like people are like, yes, innovate, please innovate, and then they try really hard, like tuners that'll tune themselves, and it just, it seems like maybe sometimes it's a little bit rushed, and I don't know, but it's like they got a lot of competition these days. The guitar market is like huge, and people are making some amazing stuff. And yeah, I don't know if some of it is just kind of like not quite all the way. I mean, with the robot tuners, at least, I'm kind of talking about that specifically.
Yeah, right.
Most people ended up kind of ripping those out that I heard of. But to me, this is, and you could argue that maybe this is like technically new because the drawing on the napkin was like different.
Right, that's
and
true.
And it says like inspired by.
Yeah,
so.
Inspired by. That means we didn't take all of the suggestions, but yeah.
But I think part of it too is like they're really shooting for like that. Okay, there's like people out there in this world that have just like tons of money to buy guitars with, but there's also a lot of people, and maybe a lot more people, that don't just have like a lot of money to just kind of like sink into something like that is just like kind of going to sit there, right? A guitar just kind of like sit there unless you're like playing it. But even then, it's still just kind of hanging out there, you know. And it seems like they kind of single people out, or they really want to just hang out in this little like club with these people. And I don't know if, you know, that's just kind of like what, like, oh, a new model. And I did get excited when I saw it. I was like, oh, is this going to be like $1,200 or something? Like maybe something you could save up your pennies for, and at the end of the year you can run to the store and go and get it. But, you know, I mean potentially, but it's,
so is it, do you think it's like,
it's a little off-putting, that aspect of it.
It's like maybe the collector aspect of it? Is that kind of what you're referring to? They're like, well, we're going to sell these to collectors, and maybe in, you know, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, it's going to be like this cool piece of Gibson history. I don't know. You know, I didn't even think about that you're, a lot of times they'll have, you know, the top of the line Les Paul, and then they have the studio. And so far it doesn't seem like that's going to happen with this model.
If I saw one at a guitar store, I would pick it up, especially if it was like a guitar store I was comfortable with. You know, some of them you walk in and you're like, I can't even like look at any of the guitars here. Like, the guy's watching me, but you know, I would pick one up and play it because it looks really comfortable, and I like when I can, you know, curl up on the recliner with the guitar, and that's why Strats are really nice, you know. And that looks really comfortable. The headstock is very interesting. It's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, I heard someone say it looks like a hockey stick.
Yeah,
which it kind of does.
And
but it's funny how the headstock and the body, like, there has to be this like beautiful marriage between the two, right? It has to fit. And you know, with the body, I don't know what headstock I would do differently. I can't really say like at this point, but it just seems like, yeah, there's something different about that combination. Obviously, I think it might look kind of cool with a traditional Les Paul headstock, you know, and it would be like, wow, that's like a different, but then people would kind of be like, well, that's traditional, but then the other part's not. And so I think you're kind of in a no-win situation. All right, everyone, thanks for listening to the ToneCast. As you noticed there, we kind of cut the video feed off because we want you to go and listen to the full audio of the ToneCast as well. So that's the best way you can finish this episode, is go to our Podbean page. We'll link that below. Make sure you're downloading the ToneCast on iTunes. Thanks for those who have been following this on YouTube. I know these long form things are a lot to listen to, so we want to encourage you to keep downloading our podcast, listen to it at work, in your car, that kind of stuff. But also, we're going to be continuing these simulcasts here on YouTube. So thanks for your listener support. Thanks for watching us here on YouTube, and we'll catch you guys very soon.
Yeah, bye guys.